this week, the political temperature in Cameroon soared as President Paul Biya, one of the world's largest or longest serving leaders, officially announced his intention to seek an 8th term in office. Wait for it, at the age of 92. Biya, who has ruled Cameroon since 1982, is no stranger to controversy. His decades-long grip on power has been marked by allegations of electoral manipulation, human rights abuses, and a deepening disconnect with a youthful population demanding change. Now, just days away from his announcement, he reshuffled the military leadership, a move critics view as a strategic step to consolidate loyalty ahead of the 2025 elections.
So the question is, what does Biya's latest bid mean for democracy in Cameroon? And how are Cameroonians, especially the younger generations, how they're reacting to what seems like deja vu? We've got a package here. Let's take a look at that. And when we come back, we'll start our conversation with our very special guest.
In Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé, long lines are forming outside the offices of Elections Cameroon as citizens register to vote in what many are calling a pivotal moment for the country's political future.
Selon moi, c'est un jeu politique. C'est eux-mêmes qui savent. Mais tout ce que nous on veut l'année-ci là, c'est le changement. Nous on est là pour le changement maintenant. Je pense qu'il est temps pour que les Camerounais ferment la page de tous ces vieux-là.
This desire for change is growing louder across Cameroon. Frustrations over unemployment, stagnation, and limited opportunities have left many young people disillusioned with a political system they feel no longer serves them.
Les choses ne marchent pas au Cameroun depuis des années. Donc nous pensons que cette année, vraiment, ça doit être l'année idéale pour changer les choses. Oui, parce que, vous savez, nous sommes restés dans un système où depuis, nous les jeunes, nous sommes légués. Nous sommes muselés, on n'arrive pas à se mouvoir. Oui, on a fait des études, on a fait des formations professionnelles, il n'y a pas d'issue. Donc on pense cette année, on va vraiment aller au vote, on va aller dans les urnes, changer les choses, oui, pour aussi avoir une nouvelle ère.
Tensions are also mounting within the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, the CPDM, where signs of internal cracks are emerging.
L'actualité brûlante de ces derniers jours, entre les dissensions au sein du parti au pouvoir, nous avons eu la sortie du ministre Ndongmo et la sortie du ministre René Sadi. De ces deux sorties, on retient une seule chose. Il y a une certaine frilosité au sein de la maison RDPC. Et cette frilosité se justifie par le fait que la structure pyramidale au sein de ce parti ne permet plus de pouvoir voir le sommet.
At the heart of that reluctance lies the party's longtime leader, President Paul Biya. Now 92, Biya is the world's oldest head of state and has ruled Cameroon for over 4 decades.
Les leçons que nous pouvons tirer de cette dissension n'est que la marque que le poteau central, qu'est le président et le candidat naturel du parti, ne fait plus l'unanimité. On peut le comprendre par les différents appels à d'autres candidatures et aux déclarations de certains membres du parti qui ont demandé à être investis.
This week, Biya confirmed what many had suspected. He will seek an 8th term in the 2025 election, citing what he describes as numerous and insistent calls for him to continue leading. But questions about Biya's health, his long absences from public view, and widespread allegations of corruption have fed growing skepticism both among the opposition and within his own party. Within the ruling coalition itself, long-standing allies are now breaking ranks. Former Minister Issa Chiroma Bakari and ex-Prime Minister Bello Boba Maigari, once vital to Biya's northern base, have launched rival presidential bids, publicly criticizing the administration for breaking public trust.
Nous avons plusieurs équipes qui, chacune d'elles, veut remplacer le père. Et ça se fait voir dans ce qui est en train de se passer entre le secrétaire général de la présidence qui convoque, le secrétaire du RDPC, les ministres qui ne sont pas d'accord avec lui. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il y a des ministres qui ont travaillé depuis très longtemps avec le président. Donc ils ont au moins la connaissance de comment il fonctionne. Et si aujourd'hui vous remarquez qu'il y a certains qui n'ont plus la légitimité, même au sein du parti, c'est parce que le papa ne tient plus les rênes, c'est tout. Et aujourd'hui, cette cacophonie montre à quel point non seulement le gouvernement est divisé, et le gouvernement n'est plus apte et capable de tenir ce pays. Il faut un gouvernement nouveau.
Cameroon's presidential election is expected to be held on October 12, 2025. The contest will feature familiar faces, Maurice Kamto, Joshua Osei, Akeremuna, and possibly new alliances. But the stakes remain high. Paul Biya has never lost an election, winning his last in 2018 with over 71% of the vote, a result marred by allegations of widespread irregularities. As voters continue to register and campaigns gather pace, the question remains, can these elections deliver the new era so many Cameroonians are calling for, or will the political order once again remain unchanged? For News Central, I'm Kathleen Domo.
Now joining us this morning, two voices offering different but critical perspectives. Kathleen Domo, social justice advocate, and also Dr. Ashu Nyenty, editorialist and seasoned political commentator. Thank you both for joining us. Let's start from in-house here inside of the studio with Kathleen. Kathleen, you're welcome. So, Paul Biya, 92? 92. Okay.
92.
I must also tell that most of the pictures that we're seeing of him now are very different from what he actually does look like now. Let's put that out there. 8th term.
Yes.
At 92.
Yes.
Obviously, Nigeria, we're learning. But how did that make you feel when you heard it?
Disappointed, but not surprised.
Okay.
As you've heard from the report, people have had it with not just the longevity, but the fact that that longevity has not translated into the kind of governance that they want, into the services, into the basic needs, into the democratic outflow that they expected when Biya became president in 1982. And so the frustrations...
Sorry,
1982.
Yeah, that's kind of... I was born the year before.
So the frustrations have simmered and simmered and simmered. And at this point, the calls for change are so loud that even within, as you heard in the report, even within the president's own ruling party, there are factions and different alliances being built because really and truly, when you rule for 42 years and the dividends of that leadership is not seen, then the people get to a point where everything just explodes. And that is where Cameroon is at. As a Cameroonian myself, I have voted in 3 elections, and it has never translated into what we have expected. And so you cannot blame the average Cameroonian, especially those who spoke in the report, for wanting something that they deserve as many as adults they have become.
But to add to that, and regarding the Cameroonian people, maybe it's the culture, I do not know, but why does it seem like they seem so long-suffering? After 42 years, we're only just beginning to see rumors of agitations now for his longevity in governance. So I'm wondering why exactly Cameroonians have been that laid back as against Kenyans or Nigerians.
A couple of weeks ago, the NRC released a report, and I'm going to tie this together. The NRC released a report that Cameroon has the most neglected humanitarian crisis in the world. It's the same thing as the apathy that the world cries about and people say that Cameroonians do not speak up, Cameroonians are apathetic. It's simple. When geopolitics does not really reflect the needs of either the region or the continent or the world, nobody cares about your story. And so Cameroonians have agitated for a very long time. For over 35 years, Cameroonians have agitated. And two reasons why, just to answer your question, 2 reasons why the world has not heard that Cameroonians are agitating is simple. One is internal stifling of civil society and the voices of Cameroonians. And they've done it in 2 ways: the direct repression and also the legal repression. Currently, for example, any opposition party that does not have an elected official cannot field a candidate. these are the different mechanisms that the government has used. In 2011, the constitution was changed to ensure that the current president remains president for life. These different mechanisms, whether by policy, by law, or by direct, dissent, oppression, has caused Cameroonians, the voices of Cameroonians, to be stifled. A lot of people have been killed. A lot of civil society organizers have left the country simply because it just doesn't make sense to continue to fight a government that has captured the state.
Makes you wonder, with the shrinking civic space already shrinking, it makes you wonder, the risks that opposition voices would now have to face as well. We're going to get into that, but let me come quickly to Dr. Yinti, who joins us live as well, virtually. Doctor, you have covered Cameroonian politics extensively. Let's start with you. Are you surprised with Paul Biya's bid for an 8th term, at giving, the political culture that is surrounding his leadership? Let's start there.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Before I answer your question, permit me to respond a little bit to what my dear sister in the studio has said for some little correction. So this attitude of many people are referring to a group of people, Cameroonians, as if they were representatives of Cameroonians is always overboard. Because in a political environment, there are those who are for a given candidate and there are those who are against that candidate. Maybe it would be more accurate and more appropriate to say those who are against have been agitating. Of course, those who are his supporters will not be agitating. That is the first point. Secondly, the constitutional amendment was in 2008, not 2011. I just wanted to make that slight correction. Now, back to your question. The truth is, the bid, the candidature of President Paul Biya is a surprise to those who do not understand the political dynamics in Cameroon. But for those of us who are keen watchers, who are connoisseurs of the political space in Cameroon, it didn't come as a surprise at all to us. It is true that in July of 2022, the President of the Republic granted an interview in which he insinuated that when the appropriate time will come, he will let the public to know whether he will go back to his village or he's going to continue. But that was a dramatic suspense at that time. But in December, on the 31st of December 2024, during his end of year address or New Year address to the people of Cameroon, he gave the first hint that he would like to continue. He said that his determination to continue giving Cameroonians what they need is growing day by day. That was a first hint for those who are keen, who understand the political dynamics of the country. Then secondly, on the 10th of February 2025, when he made his traditional speech to the youth, because he does that every year, he told them that in the face of their challenges, he will continue to stand by them in resolving the substantial or residual issues that they face, unemployment and other difficulties and challenges in life. So from that perspective, those of us who are keen observers already knew that he would likely run or contest this year's election. And when he finally last Sunday, when he finally published on his X page his intention to run again, it didn't come as a surprise to many of us because we already saw the signs. The indications were there, and of course, he had given the hints for those who are not politically unaware, for those who are politically savvy, who already knew that he was going to run again.
You're a political commentator, you're an editorialist, you have watched politics play out, not only in Cameroon, but the entire continent of Africa. He's ironclad on power for over 40 years and now going for an 8th term, reviewing the Constitution in 2008 or 2012, and then reshuffling the military, which have now raised eyebrows. In your view, is that democracy? Should this be democracy? Because if you're shrinking civic space, if you are putting the opposition voice at risk, and you are suppressing media, what does it say about the strength of democracy, the health of democracy in Cameroon?
democracy is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. There are major tenets in democracy worldwide, and democracy is contextual. In Cameroon, I can say we are in a democracy, just like in Nigeria, they're in a democracy. You mentioned a number of things. I would like to address those issues. You talked about press freedom. I would like to mention that when President Paul Biya came to power in 1982, there was only one media house in Cameroon. That's the Cameroon Radio Television. That is the Cameroon equivalent of the NTA in Nigeria. But as we speak today, there are a flurry of media houses, television, radio stations, and newspaper titles in the country. So there has been a dramatic shift and change in the media landscape. It is true that there are some residual issues on security of journalists, access to information, the need for press freedom act, etc., etc. Of course, like Oliver Twist, who always asks for more, but there has been an improvement, a dramatic improvement in that direction. Cameroon is one of those countries where you could insult the head of state, insult even members of his family, and not much will happen to you from that perspective. And you talked about the military, that the changes have been made in the military are intended to maybe have a firm grip over the country. I will not share that opinion. That is what some people believe, but I will not share that opinion because that falls within the statutory authority of the President of the Republic by virtue of the Constitution of Cameroon. Those are his regalian duties. Now, the Constitution of Cameroon, in its section 8, paragraph 10, stipulates that the President of the Republic appoints to civilian and military positions. It is very clear. And it is a president who decides, based on his own calendar, on his own wishes, to determine the timeliness and the relevance of an action. These are things that have been taking place regularly. So this one is no exception. It has nothing in my view.
I have to pause you there.
The upcoming election.
Dr. Nyenty, I have to pause you there because we are running out of time. I saw that Kathleen here had some reactions to what you were saying. So Kathleen, go ahead and express yourself before I ask my final question.
Because we are running out of time, really and truly, my big brother, Dr. Nyenty, has to actually tell us what in 43 years in terms of accomplishments that our president has made, that he needs another 7 years to actually deliver. And when you talk about press freedom, I can name a flurry. I'm a journalist, and I started my work in Cameroon. I've been arrested, after an editorial was aired on radio. So there is no way to sugarcoat the fact that press freedom is at a dismal state in Cameroon for over a couple of years now. He needs to actually, let's tell ourselves the truth. People like Martinez Zogo did not die because they wanted to die, for example. That was my colleague. We need to be able to, as Cameroonians, speak truth to power sometimes and ensure that we move towards a country that will give a legacy of some semblance of humanity to our children. The Anglophone crisis, which has been blistering the northwest and southwest regions for almost 10 years now, is not something that you can throw under the carpet. But I mean, Dr. Nyenty needs to look us in the face and tell us the truth about how our country has been governed for 43 years and whether we've enjoyed the dividends of this so-called democracy that he has talked about.
Dr. Nyenty, I'm going to let you respond to that real quick, but let me also add to this. Now, if you say press freedom and that there's plenty that has been done when it comes to freedom of speech, when it comes to journalists, then there is the current reshuffling of the military, which seems very nicely placed before his telling that he's going to be running, and of course before the election. So that kind of like makes you ask the question, are these movements being put in place for control, or is it just routine governance? I'm going to let you respond first, Dr. Nyenty, and if you can keep it summary so that we can end the show because we're out of time.
Definitely. Of course, I've answered the question concerning the military when your female colleague asked the question. So I don't think I'm going to come back to it. But let me just respond to what my sister said. Yes, Martinez was killed. It is regrettable. It's unfortunate. And those who are accused of having murdered that journalist are undergoing trial as we speak. So let us wait for the courts to go to the end of the process and we'll see what comes out of it. Secondly, the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions is regrettable. for the past 8 years, we have been in this difficulty, in this challenge, but every measure has been taken to ensure that peace returns to those parts of the country. Now, let me answer you. She asked the question, what the current regime has done in the past 42 years. I'm just going to be very brief. Now, let's take the educational sector. In 1982, when the president came, there was only one state university in Cameroon. Today, in 2025, there are 11 state universities. Basic education, in 1982, there were less than 10,000 primary and nursery primary government schools in Cameroon. Today, we have over 19,000. Life expectancy in 1982 was 52 years. Today, life expectancy is 62 years. Electricity supply, in 1982, we had less than 1,000 megawatts of electricity. Today in Cameroon is over 1,850 plus megawatts. In road infrastructure, in 1982, there were 55,000 paved roads in Cameroon. Today we have 121,873 kilometers of paved roads. Now for the tar roads in 1982, we had just 1,000 kilometers of tar roads in Cameroon. Today, we have 10,000 kilometers of tar roads in this country. Is Cameroon a bed of roses? Certainly no. Is everything fine in Cameroon? Definitely not. But of course, we must be objective to say there has been massive...
In that objectivity that you're calling for, Doctor, in that objectivity you're calling for, you only mentioned 11 tertiary institutions in 42 years. And it just really shows what, our guest here in the studio, Kathleen, is talking about. As you are also calling all this infrastructure, which, compared for 42 years, seems to be, minuscule at this point. I have to also ask about the autonomy of institutions, the judiciary, the electoral bodies, and most importantly, the Fourth Estate. Has Biya's rule at this point aided these institutions to be autonomous? Have they moved to impeach the president once?
Very good question. I begin with the electoral institutions. When the president came to power, it was the administration that was organizing elections year after year, and people complained. Those in the opposition complained. Now, because of a desire to improve the electoral process and working together with the opposition parties, the government decided to create what we call the National Elections Observatory, number 1 and number 2, to supervise the administration. Then in 2012, it was decided that the administration should be ousted from the conduct of elections, and the electoral management was now transferred to an independent, autonomous body. They call it Elections Cameroon. It is the Cameroonian equivalent of what you have in Nigeria. I think it is called the National Elections Commission. This is how the electoral organization has morphed from something controlled entirely by the administration to an independent, autonomous body that today conducts elections in this country. Talking about the judiciary, Cameroon operates under the institutional framework or paradigm of Montesquieu, which talks about the division of powers, separation of powers, the executive, the judiciary, and of course the legislature. Section 37 of the Cameroonian Constitution is very clear that the judiciary is independent of the executive and of the legislative bodies. So you see that judiciary operates separately. It is true that by virtue of institutional checks and balances, the President of the Republic ensures the independence of the judiciary as the institutional head and representative of state apparatus. But in terms of practical operational functioning, the judiciary in Cameroon is autonomous and is independent.
For your submission there, but I will give a final platform for Kathleen here, because you've said so much. Kathleen, we've got very little time, so if you please just round off your final.
Just very simply, when you are the player and the referee in your own game, it's very obvious how the outcome of the game is going to be. All of these institutions, the judiciary, the military, the electoral body, every single one of them is detected, appointed, everybody appointed there is done by the president. They have the yam, they have the knife, and they control how that works. Tell me how a population is supposed to function under such state capture.
We're going to leave that rhetorical. Thank you very much, Kathleen, for joining us. Thank you very much, Dr. Nyenty. We wish we had more time. Maybe we should extend this to another conversation as we see things progress in Cameroon. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
And to the viewers, we want to say thank you for sticking with us for the Saturday edition.
Yes,
we
indeed.
had no time for most of what we were talking about today because they got so exciting. And Kathleen, thank you for bringing the fire.
Thank you. Thank you. Pretty much all we got to take here right here on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in from 8 o'clock down to this very minute.